Before we get into today's video, I'd like to give a shout out to one of our newest subscribers, Bink Breezy. Bink Breezy. Thank you for subscribing and welcome to the family. Now, run. Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Dullahan, back once again with a spooktacular Dungeons and Dragons character conversion. Happy Halloween, or at least happy October. I do apologize for not posting this week. I have been rather busy with a upcoming special. If you are following the community page, you probably know what that is. But anyway, I thought that I would go ahead and give you a little treat while we are waiting for that special, which is back on the domains of Dread. And one such domain of Dread is known as the Rider's Bridge, which has its very own version of the Headless Horseman, known as the Headless Rider, which uses the stat block of Dullahan, also found in the same book, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Now, Dullahan actually comes from, I believe it was the Irish folklore. Do correct me if I'm wrong, but in that mythos, Dullahan means the Dark Man. And much like in Irish and Scottish folklore, we also have the, I think it was the English? No, I think it was German, that has its own version of the Headless Horseman as well as a variant that doesn't just ride a horse, but also drives a carriage. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to incorporate in today's build for the Headless Horseman. So today we are going to go ahead and do just that. Starting things off with the point buy system, we'll have Strength at a 14, Dexterity at a 12, Constitution also at a 14, Intelligence will be at an 11, Wisdom will be a 10, and Charisma will be 12. For our race, the Dullahan is, well, known as a Fey spirit, but in other forms, the Headless Horseman is a revenant creature who comes back from the dead in order to repent for their sins. So we are going to go ahead and go for the Reborn, since most cultures and folklore depict their Headless Horseman as an undead being of sorts, looking for their lost head, or carries their head with them. So it makes sense to go for the Reborn. This will give us an ability score increase to our Dexterity, increasing it by 2, and go ahead and increase your Wisdom by 1. This will give us a Dexterity of 14 and a Wisdom of 11. Now, speaking of our riding, we need a background. But before we get into that, I forgot about the Reborn's features. Your Ancestral Legacy is going to give you 2 skills of your choice. Go for Intimidation and History. You also get your Deathless Nature and Knowledge for a past life. And now for our background. We're going to go ahead and incorporate that little bit of the carriage-driving Headless Horseman and go for the background Caravan Specialist. Now, you can do whatever you want for your Headless Horseman, since it is dependent on who they were in life. But I thought it would be fantastic to include the carriage-driving Headless Horseman in this as well. Not to mention, the background of Caravan Specialist gives you a whip as an item for your equipment. So I thought it seemed fair, since most depictions of the Dullahan have a whip of some kind as their weapon. Other versions have an axe or a thrown pumpkin. We'll get more into that later. But for your caravan specialist, your proficiencies are going to be with the animal handling and survival skills. You get proficiency in land vehicles and one extra language of your choice. You also get the feature Wagon Master. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to our class, and I thought the perfect starting class would be the Fighter. This will give us a D10 hit die, starting hit points of 10 plus our Constitution modifier, and any extra hit points moving forward will be increasing our hit points by 1d10 plus our Constitution modifier per fighter level after the first. For your proficiencies, go ahead and get your armor proficiencies in all armor and shields. Your weapon proficiencies are simple and martial weapons. For your saving throws, we have strength and constitution. And for your skills, acrobatics and athletics are the most fitting here. For your fighting style, I would like to reference the fact that we are dealing with the Headless Horseman, so we're going to go with blind fighting, giving us a blind sight of up to 10 feet. Yes, that seems pretty small, but we are going to compensate for that later on in this build. We also get the feature Second Wind. At second level, our fighter gets access to Action Surge. And at third level, we get the martial archetype Cavalier. Yes, stands to reason that someone who is riding a horse would have a class feature that helps them ride their horse better. So with our Cavalier archetype, we get the bonus proficiency in Persuasion. We'll also get Born to the Saddle and Unwavering Mark. At level 4 fighter, we'll go ahead and increase our wisdom by 2 points, giving us a 13. This gives us the necessary prerequisites of ability scores to multi-class into Ranger. Go for the D10 hit die, extra hit points of 1d10, plus your Constitution modifier per Ranger level. You also get a new proficiency. We're going to go with the Nature skill. You also get Favored Foe and Deft Explorer, giving you access to Canny, which gives you the ability to add double your proficiency bonus to one of your proficient skills. We'll go with Animal Handling, giving us essentially expertise in animal handling. Level 2 Rangers get a new fighting style and spell casting using the Wisdom modifier. For our fighting style, I think it is fitting that someone who likes to throw a pumpkin head around would have access to the thrown weapon fighting style. Moving on to level 3 Ranger, we get access to Primal Awareness, which gives us access to a good list of spells at a given level, which is perfect because the spell that we need in particular is Beast Sense, which allows us to gain the senses of an animal that we touch that is friendly to us, which in this case will be our horse. We are also going to get access to our Ranger Conclave. Our subclass for this is going to be the Fey Wanderer. We'll get access to Dreadful Strikes, giving us access to more damage when we hit our target, and we also get Fey Wanderer Magic, giving us less to even more amazing spells that would work perfectly for our Headless Horseman build. And we also get Otherworldly Glamour, which will give us access to Deception and a bonus to any charisma check that we make. Moving on to level 4 Ranger, we'll go ahead and increase our Intelligence and Wisdom each by 1. At level 5 Ranger, we'll get access to Extra Attack. Level 6, our Favored Foe increases to a 1d6 extra damage, and our Deft Explorer gives us access to Roaming, increasing our walking speed by 5 feet, and giving us access to a swimming and climbing speed as well. At level 7, the Fey Wanderer Ranger gives us access to Beguiling Twist. If we were to succeed on our saving throw against being charmed or frightened, or if an ally gets their saving throw successful on the charmed or frightened condition, we can choose a target within range and have them become charmed or frightened on a saving throw as well, which is hilarious. Level 8, we're going to get access to the Ranger feature, Lance Stride, and we would normally get access to an ability score improvement, but I decided to go with the Feet Mounted Combatant, giving us advantage on melee attacks against any unmounted creature that is smaller than your mount. And since horses are large creatures, that's going to be most of your opponents. You can force an attack targeted at your mount to target you instead. If your mount is subjected to an effect that allows it to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, it takes no damage if it succeeds on the saving throw and only half damage if it fails. Basically giving you evasion with your mount. Well, your mount will get evasion. You don't, so you're going to have to make sure you have an ability that gives you that ability if you want evasion as well. Moving on to level 10 Ranger, we get Deft Explorer increased up to the ability of Tireless, and we also get to have the ability Hide in Plain Sight. Level 11 Ranger of the Fey Wanderer Conclave gives us access to Fey reinforcements. We are a demonic Fey after all, so it does make sense to have access to the ability to call on a Fey ally. Probably something like a Will-o'-the-Wisp. Sort of makes sense in my opinion, especially since we are drawing a pumpkin head, which is known as a jack-o'-lantern, which happens to be another name of Will-o'-the-Wisp, Jack of the Lantern. Moving on to level 12 Ranger, we get another ability score improvement, but we're going to trade it out for another feat. We're going to get the Throne Arms Master, which we can get access to thanks to Teldori Reborn campaign setting. This will give us an increase on our dexterity by 1 point, as well as giving us the following features. Simple and martial weapons without the thrown property have the thrown property for you. One-handed weapons have a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet, while two-handed weapons get a normal range of 15 feet and a long range of 30 feet. Weapons that already have the thrown property increase their short range by 20 feet and their long range by 40 feet for you. When you miss with a thrown weapon attack using a light weapon, the weapon returns to your grasp like a boomerang at the end of your turn, unless something prevents it from returning. You can catch and stow as many weapons as you threw in this way. So, very useful, and if you are trying to catch prey that is on the run, I would suggest grabbing yourself a net. That way, your thrown weapon property of increasing by 20 feet will increase the net to a grand total of 25 feet for its short range. Moving on to level 14 Ranger, we get access to Favored Foe of 1d8, and we get the Vanish ability. And finally, at level 15 Ranger, we get Mist Wanderer. This is a feature that works splendidly with a Cavalier Fighter, because you gain access to Misty Step, and you get to choose a friendly creature within a certain feet, 5 feet if I remember correctly, that can travel with you with Misty Step. So, while you are riding your horse, you and your horse can Misty Step at the same time. I find that brilliant. And at level 16 Ranger, we will get another ability score improvement, but I decided to go with a feat instead, Slasher. Our whip does do slashing damage after all, and so does a good bit of other weaponry that the Headless Horseman does also have access to, like an axe, or a hand axe, or a sword in some cases. So we'll go ahead and increase our dexterity to 16 thanks to the Slasher feat, and once per turn when you hit a creature with an attack that deals slashing damage, you can reduce the speed of the target by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. So if you're chasing someone, it makes a lot of sense to use this against your target, that way they're a little bit slower. When you score a critical hit that deals slashing damage to a creature, you grievously wound them. Until the start of your next turn, the target has disadvantage on all attack rolls. Very nice. That way, if they want to fight back, it's going to be a little harder for them to fight back. Now, that might be the end of the build, but not the end of the video, as we do have some spells to go over since we did get access to ranger spell levels. So, for your first level spells, I would recommend Beast Bond, Ensnaring Strike, Fog Cloud, and Jump. That way you can have your horse's jump distance increase. Second level, Dark Vision and Pass Without Trace, mostly for your horse once again. Level 3, you get Non-Detection and Water Walk. It would be horrifying for your foes to see your horse walking on water. And finally, Freedom of Movement. That's where your horse is not able to get slowed down by difficult terrain. And with that being said, that is the end of today's video. I do hope that you enjoyed. What other characters do you think should be in the Dungeons & Dragons style? Let me know in the comments section down below. And until next time, this has been Dullahan, and I am offline.